In this tutorial, we'll cover general trimming techniques, working in the timeline, and applying transitions. Let's get started. As you'll see, I've already got folders, or again what we call bins, that have our audio, graphics, sequences, and video footage already organized, so we're ready to edit. I'll start with going into the video footage folder and taking a look at all the clips that I already have in here. I'm going to double click on the 001 clip to load it into the source monitor. From here you can just go ahead and use your general controls like play and stop, but sometimes it's just quicker just to grab the playhead and scrub back and forth to get a general idea what's in the clip. And I'm going to go ahead and just set an in point right here, and I'm going to hit mark in, or you can press the I key. And I'm going to go ahead and move them up here a little bit till I find an interesting point. Now you can also step it forward by a frame or step it backwards, or sometimes it's just easier to hit the arrow key to the right or the arrow key to the left and get the point to where you think it's perfect and press mark out or the O key. The easiest way to set up your sequence is to drag the media from the source window into this blank sequence area. When you do this and you drag and drop, you'll notice that Premiere Pro already set up the timeline with the correct frame size and the correct frame rate to match the clip from the source window. This also works if you drag and drop from the project bin into a blank sequence area. You'll notice that when we drag the clip to the timeline panel area to create the sequence, that it actually named the sequence for me. You can quickly change this just by clicking on it, hitting the delete key to name it hoverboarding, and then click out of it, and you'll notice that it renamed the sequence for me. Here's a few tips to help you in the timeline panel area when you're working with the media and you need to zoom in and out. You can use the slider at the bottom of the screen to zoom in or out just by moving it right or left. I actually find it easier to use the plus key or the minus key to zoom in and out. Another key I use quite a bit is the backslash key, which will allow me to take it to an 80% view, which in many cases is exactly the right zoom level for me to continue to work. Let's continue by grabbing the second clip and bringing it over to the timeline area. And I'm just going to simply just drag this and let it go. Now you'll notice that this clip snapped right up against the other clip, and that's because I have snap turned on. You know it's on because it's blue. If you click on it, you'll notice it turns gray, which means it's not on. And sometimes you don't want your clips to snap in place because you need a little bit more precise adjustment. If you want to trim a clip directly in the sequence, you can do that as well. Just bring your mouse in this general area, and then you can just slide your playhead back and forth and find an area where you think it might be an interesting start. I'll go ahead and just trim it here by just grabbing the edge of the clip, and you'll notice your time marker turns to a red arrow pointing to the right in this case, and trim this in. Maybe that's a good out point, and you'll notice you now have a trimmed clip. Now there's a number of ways that you can move this clip into place. Of course, you can just click on it, drag it, and again it will snap into place because your snap is turned on. Or I find it easier if you just click in this area, you'll see it turns white, and then just hit the delete key, and that's called a ripple. Now let's bring the rest of the clips in, starting with the hoverboard 003 clip and then going all the way down to the bottom to the number 19 clip, and I'm going to just press the shift key to select all of those and then drag and drop those directly in place, and again you'll see it snaps right when it meets the edge. If you double click in this general area right here, you'll notice that the video track expands itself to show you the poster frames or the thumbnails of each clip directly in the sequence. I'm going to just hit the plus key to zoom in so I can get a better idea what these clips look like. And again, even with the clips in the timeline, as you start to move your playhead around to find that edit point and adjust this just by dragging the edge, again in this case to the right, and clicking in the gap area and pressing the delete key, you will close the gap with what's known as a ripple delete. The two keys that I use all the time are the Q and W keys. Let me show you why. As I try and find a good out point for this clip, all I have to do now is hit the W key to shift all of these clips back to the playhead. On this clip, what I want to do is change the end point, so I'm going to bring this up until I find the point that I want by hitting the Q key. I'm going to go ahead and finish up my adjustments using Q and W and work my way down the timeline. Let's go to our audio folder and bring some audio in just by simply dragging it to the audio track. I'm going to double click in this area to expose the waveforms so I get a better idea what the waveforms look like, which are really going to help me edit. You will find that even starting with audio is a really great way to start your editing. Let's play this back and see what it looks like and sounds like so far. I'm going to press play in the program monitor, or you can press the space bar to start and stop.
Okay, and now I'm ready to shine, and I'm only getting bigger and better and up the line. Got a bright light in the top right of my mind. Everybody watch out, cause it's my time, and I'm never giving it up. I'm never gonna stop. I'm never giving it up and gotta be top. And I rock before I thought to ever drop. This is a piece of my mind, a cakewalk. Everybody put your hands up. Everybody say super, man. Everybody put your hands up.
Now this is a really great start, but I did notice a number of areas that I'd like to adjust. So let me show you what I thought I needed to adjust. And let's take a closer look on how to do that. You'll notice that when I move my playhead, you'll hear it scrubbing the sound. I'm going to go ahead and mute that so I don't have to listen to the scrubbing sound right now. I did notice there were a few clips here that were not in the right order for the way that they were shot, or maybe the way that tells the story the best way. So I'm going to go ahead and scrub those. Now you'll see here where he's coming out of the water, and then I've got a different shot of a different hoverboarder, and then the original guy lands in the water. So what I might want to do at this point is to match this clip when he goes underwater. What's the quickest way to do that? I'm going to start by hitting the padlock, locking my music track here, keeping it from changing as I edit. The diagonal lines tell you that the track has been locked. I'm going to go ahead and zoom into this just a little bit. And you see my 3 clips here, and all I have to do to change the order is make sure the clip is selected, hold down the Command key on Mac or the Control key on Windows, and simply just drag it to the left, and you'll notice these teeth pop up to help guide me. And all I have to do now is let it go, and these 2 have now switched positions. One thing to point out is you do want to make sure that your snap is actually on. I'm going to turn it off just in case this happens to you. If I go ahead and move this by holding that modifier key down and I get it very close to the edge and I let it go, you'll notice it left this small area here. By having the snap on, it'll help you snap that to the other end so that doesn't happen. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that to put that back and turn my snap back on. So at this point, I might just want to double check that my clips are in the order that I want. I can go ahead and check this clip. That looks great. It's the same guy under here. And then I can go ahead and just see that all of this scrubs exactly the way that I want it. Let's go ahead and see what this looks like with the audio on. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the mute track button and turn that off, and then wind this back a little bit and just see how it turns out.
Peace in my mind, a cakewalk. Everybody put your hands up.
So I instantly see that right there he says, everybody put your hands up, and you'll notice his hands aren't up yet. And I know that there's a scene there where his hands are actually already up. So now I need to adjust that clip so it matches the audio. What's the easiest way to do that? You'll find a tool over here called the slip tool, and it's really easy to use. All you have to do is select the slip tool and make sure that your playhead is exactly where you want to make the adjustment, and then you click on the clip and you just drag it right or left until you see exactly where you'd like him to start. So you see his hands are in the air about right here. Now that appears to look pretty good. Now let's bring the playhead back here and see how we did.
Everybody put your hands up. Everybody say super, man.
And I think that looks pretty good. And finally, let's add a transition at the beginning of the clip to fade in from black. As you'll see in my project panel area, I have the double arrows, which are indicating that I have more panels to choose from. I'm going to go ahead and choose the effects panel to bring it forward. You can open any of these folders and manually look through there, or it's much faster just to click in the search box area using a simple cross dissolve. So I can just type in the word cross and you'll see that a number of things popped up, and here's my cross dissolve, and all I have to do is just take it and drag it from here right onto my opening clip. I'm going to go in and zoom in so you can see that it's been applied to the beginning of the clip. Let's play that back. Now that looks pretty good, but if you want it to be longer or shorter, all you have to do is take your pointer, click on the cross dissolve, and then you can grab the edge of it and make it longer or shorter depending on how much you want to change the duration. I'm going to make that a little bit longer and see what that looks like. Really easy. Another way to use transitions is from clip to clip. I can use any transitions in the transition folder and apply it in the same way. This time, let's use dip to black, and we'll drag it between two clips, wait for it to highlight, and let it go. And at this point, we've got a great looking timeline, and we've got a pretty good idea on how to use some of the general trimming tools, as well as working in the timeline and finally applying transitions.